Now I'm in the table that we just created. And I want to add a field to it, a field that shows the distance along it. Now, if you notice, they have this field called Object ID, and that is a default field that ArcGIS puts in. The first point is number 1, and it goes all the way through. The shape field tells you what kind of feature it is. For example, these are points. So I'm going to minimize that a little bit. And what I wanted to do is add a field that's going to have the distance along here. So what I first need to do is to stop editing. Just save our edits, and then I'll wait for it to be done. There. So now I open it up again, and now I have my attribute table open, and I'm going to go to Add Field. And I'm going to call this field TRLDIST, and I'm going to call it, there are different number types. Short integer is a whole number that I think it's 8 characters or 8 bits. There are many others that you can do, including a blob, which is some kind of data file to go with it. But we're going to go for the float, which is just a decimal number. It could be any size. So we're going to say OK. And then it creates that field. So each of these lines are individual records, and they represent points. And now the trail distance, we're going to calculate that. You see how it says null? Null is computer speak for there's nothing here. So I'm going to right-click Field Calculator, and it warns me that I'm outside of an edit session, and it can't undo the changes, but that's okay. So we'll say yes. Now we're going to create a formula. The trail distance, so I'm going to click open parentheses, and I'm going to use the object ID. So it's object ID, so I double click times 30.48, and that is the 30.48 meters is 100 feet. But because I've multiplied, it doesn't start with 0, it starts with 1. I'm always going to be off by 100 feet. So what I'm going to do is subtract minus 30.48. So the first one, it's going to be 1 times 30.48 minus 30.48 is 0. So 2, it's going to be 30.48. So that works out. And I did this, trial and error by a couple of times, so I know it works. So I'll just say OK. And now we have to wait. It's saying that it's processing, so it's doing all the calculations, and then it's going to add that trail distance. And we just have to be patient. As long as the blue circle, there it is. So now these are distances along the trail in meters. Ta-da. Okay, so that's done. Now the next thing we have to do is to assign the assign the elevation data to it. So we're going to use the spatial analyst to link this and then add a field that has the elevations at each of those points. So one of the things we have to do, though, is make sure that our spatial analyst tools are turned on. And the way to do that, you go to Customize, Extensions, click on Extensions, and you want to make sure that Spatial Analyst is checked. When we got ArcGIS, we had to pay extra to get this. There's an extra license fee, and we just have to turn it on. Excel does some similar things, if you remember from our computers class. So I'll say close. Now I have to open the tools, so I open the toolbox, Arc Toolbox. And that'll take a second to open up. Now they use this analogy where you have the toolbox, tool tray, and then you take a tool out of it to make it, in pictures. So we'll see that in just a second. So Spatial Analyst Tools, Extract, because we're going to extract the data, and then extract values to points. So that's the tool that we're going to use. So the input features are the trail points. So we drag that over. Okay, and our DEM, our input raster, is right here. And it automatically gives it a name, Extract Trail 1. You can put something else. Maybe I'll call it TIN_points. But it's going to, for each point in trail points, it's going to find where it's located in the DEM raster and assign the elevation to it. So then we'll say, okay, and if I've done everything right, it's going to click away and then create a new data layer. So I'll say, okay. And it didn't work, so I'm going to try it again.